Hello, everybody out there. Good to not see you. I can only see myself. So I hope you guys are doing amazing. I can see here people entering the room. It's really great. Get seated, get relaxed, have a drink in your hands. I certainly do. So as you come into the room, I'd love to know where you guys are at in this world. So let me know in the chat. I'd love to see, where everybody is. I'm currently in Copenhagen, Denmark. So yes, so any of the Danish people out there that are listening or people in Denmark, please let me know. But enter in the chat where you're from. I would love to see this, to see what you guys are up to. Oh, no one's writing anything. So good afternoon. I have the pleasure of being your guys' ending keynote for this conference. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm super excited to teach you guys about how to scale content to increase your guys' social media presence, to increase your guys' traffic, your reach, to increase business, increase sales, all of that. I'm really excited to share that information with you guys today. I'm going to be sharing some secrets. I'm going to pop open my presentation here. There we go. And throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, just drop them in the Q&A. There's actually a pretty big section at the end of the presentation where I can tackle any sort of concerns, any questions that you guys might have when it comes to social media content. So yeah, let me know all the way throughout the presentation. Just throw it in the Q&A and I will tackle all of that for you. So don't be afraid to get in there and just ask your questions. So today I'm going to be revealing some secrets on how to scale content to drive social media traffic and sales. It's brought to you by this guy here, Chris Kubbernus. Here's the quick agenda and a little bit about me. My name is Chris Kubbernus. My friends call me Cubby. I am a digital strategist, a social strategist. I run my own agency here in Copenhagen, Denmark. We're 35 people, a mix of content creators and strategists and paid media people and account people and project management people. And so I've been in the business for many years. When I was, 14 years old, I started out as an intern in my own not my own advertising agency, in another advertising agency, basically just sweeping floors, getting coffee, doing whatever I could to be around. So I've been in the industry for many, many, many years. I've seen it, grow from being about, print ads and television ads to being more and more digital to also, being very, very social these days. So I'm kind of an old dog in the industry. So I hope I can teach you guys some new tricks though. So we're going to go through 6 secrets to actually scaling your content and getting it out there, publishing it and getting traction from it. Also, I'm going to teach you guys how to test content before you launch to maybe not ensure performance, but definitely help give you guys some directions when it comes to performance. And I'm also going to teach you guys some look at some tools that we use internally or tools that we've used in the past that you guys can adopt and take a look at that'll help you guys get more content made and scale your content. And then I'm going to show you a kind of a hack, a 3-step formula for 10 times more content in less than 10 days. So stick around for that. And then we'll do a Q&A, and then I'll have a bonus tip at the very, very end. So like I mentioned before, if you have any questions, please throw them in the Q&A and I will tackle them there at that session. So a bit about us: we produce hundreds of pieces of content per month for our clients. So we really, produce a ton of stuff. So we see what works and what doesn't. And this includes video, animations, GIFs, TikToks, tons of graphic design content as well, PDF content, all that kind of stuff. So we produce hundreds of pieces of content per month for our clients. So one of the big things is how to plan and start content the right way to scale, because you really have to start in the right place. And the big secret here, or maybe it's not that big of a secret, but one of the things that we've learned is that you really have to start long, then go short. And what I mean by that is basically starting with long form content and then being able to chop that up into many, many, many different small pieces remix it, remaster it. And it might sound like it's pretty easy to do, but it's actually very hard to do. So here's just a small example from us, from our own agency and what we do. And we basically sort of apply this model to almost all of our clients. So for example, we have a blog that we've had long written form content on. So for example here, what is social media marketing? Everything you need to know in 2021. And that's a long form piece of content. It's 3,000 words, right, that we've written that just covers so much about what is social media, what are the platforms, what are the tactics, what are the trends, all that kind of stuff. And from there, that gives us a really good basis of content. It gives us the framework, so to speak, for a whole bunch of other stuff. For example, based on that article, then we do a podcast that we talk about what is social media or social media trends in 2021. And we unpack that in a 30-minute session on a podcast. We also record that session via video. It doesn't have to be super fancy. We do it fancy because we like to show off our production chops, but it can be simple. And then we record all that video and audio. We release it as a podcast, and we release the full video as a YouTube video, as you can see here. We also chop those up into smaller sections that can be also released as YouTube videos. And then we also take that and we do these other videos you can see down here, the 4 times pieces of micro content where we take specific sections out that are 1 minute in length and say, okay, let's just cover this topic, right? So, and everything really started from this blog post here. So as you can see here already, we're into 10 pieces of content roughly from just one blog post, which is really interesting. Now, it doesn't stop there. What's really cool is then we also take that, what is social media marketing, everything you need to know in 2021, all the trends that we've outlined in that one. We also then do a webinar that we build a slide deck on that has all of those things in that blog post, but it's presented in a much nicer way and in a much quicker sort of format, or not quicker, but more lengthier format, I would say, with visuals and things like that. And then we host our own webinar, The Secrets to Scaling Content for Social Media. And then we do this over and over and over again. And we can then produce images from that content. We can take that webinar, release it as an on-demand version. We can also take pieces out of that to produce other videos. And we can also take some statistics that we might have, for example, on that blog post or that, and turn it into image carousels or PDFs. Now, I know this seems like it's really extensive and really hard to do. And like, how many people do you need to actually produce this content? It's actually not that much, right? We have a writer and we have one video editor that's doing all of this stuff. So it's only 2 people that roughly are churning out this much content. Now, granted, I have to be on the podcast, others have to be on the podcast, so that takes time as well. But it's not a full-time job for these 2 either. So it's a very quick way and a very resource not intensive way to getting more and more content built. So don't be afraid to just like squeeze the hell out of everything that you're doing and see, okay, how do we take this blog post, this article, this PDF, this sales presentation, this whatever it is, and do extra things with it. Maybe we should do a podcast about it, not about the piece, but about the topic. Maybe we should do a video about it, but about the topic, sorry. So or maybe we should do a webinar about it. So it's really about changing your mindset and thinking, okay, how do we squeeze the hell out of this, milk it, as we say, and get the most out of it as possible. And then you have everything to distribute on those platforms, right? So you have your, maybe the longer version for IGTV, the longer version for YouTube, your 1-minute versions for Facebook or Instagram, or, do a vertical format cut up in 60 seconds for TikTok or IG Reels, right? Once you've created the TikTok, you just poured it out to Instagram Reels. And then you can also share links to that other content as well, right? So those also give you options for publishing stuff out, right? So you have you've got the blog article, that's one post with that link to that blog article. You can also run a tweet about that blog article. You can also excuse me, you can also have a tweet about the webinar. You can have a tweet about the PDFs that you're releasing. You can have tweets about the YouTube video. So you have this whole sort of, I would say, ecosystem of content that you can start utilizing. So that's secret number one, guys. So really start long and then go short with all those pieces. The secret number two is that basically 90% of your followers won't see your content if you only publish once on one platform. I mean, I don't know if you guys are on agency side or if you're working internally at different brands, but there's often a sense that, okay, we can't spam our users. Like we can't post 5 times a day, or we can't have this piece over on Instagram and then this piece over on LinkedIn. And the reality is that only 90% of your followers won't see that post. Those of you who are watching your reach or doing any analytics, you notice that, only 10% of your audience you're reaching per post. So that leaves a ton of people that haven't seen that content. And it's a shame because we spend a lot of time building content that we really need to make sure that everybody gets a chance to see, interact, and get that knowledge or get that entertainment from that piece of content. So don't just publish once on one platform. Really think about, how do we do extra things with it? How do we do remixes of it? How do we get it out again and again and again and do another one like DJ Khaled here? So really getting that into your mindset. Okay, only 10% of the people are going to see this. How do we make sure that we get those things out there? So, and this, just a clear example of this that I wanted to show you guys is how you can do this is, for example, we do a email newsletter called the Social Brief. And it's basically a weekly newsletter where we cover social media topics or hot tips or things that are going on in the industry. For example, what's going on with TikTok, what's going on with Facebook, what's going on with Instagram. And it's a weekly update, very quick and short, about the industry and about what's going on. Now, we can just obviously send out the newsletter and be done with it. And many brands and many businesses would do that. But it's actually, missing a lot of opportunity there, because then we can maybe even turn this newsletter into just a text post for LinkedIn, and I'm pushing it out. So for example, you can see here in the middle, this is exactly the same content here, shortened down for social media, but it covers some of the same topics. So this is another way to get your content out there, get that engagement, and potentially get new subscribers. Because then in the comments, or I add a link saying, hey, do you want this in your inbox every day or every week, then subscribe using this link, right? So then I'm also promoting the newsletter that they're going to get. And then we can also take that newsletter and do it more graphically, do it more nice and visual. So we can turn this into a carousel, a PDF, and we can do those carousels on Instagram. We can do those carousels on Facebook. We can do those carousels on LinkedIn with a PDF, and turn each one of these sections, the section about TikTok, the section about Facebook, the section about Snapchat, and turn those into one slide or one page per trend, per thing that's going on per platform, and also release that. So I hope you guys see that, you can take all of your content and just because they've seen it once in one format doesn't mean that they have that they can't see it in another format. And by doing this, you're going to get enough data to understand, okay, what formats do our audiences want the most or like the best, and what pieces of content perform the best. Because oftentimes we're sitting with not enough data actually to make informed decisions about what's working and what's not. I can see here that the Q&A session, or this Q&A, is quite dead in there. So I hope that's because I'm answering all your questions already. But don't forget, throughout the session here, if you have any questions, throw them in the Q&A and I will address them at the end of the presentation. So don't be afraid to ask questions if you guys have any, okay? So moving on, if you guys would like to, here's where I hit you up with a call to action. But if you guys would like to sign up for the social brief, here's the URL. just, screenshot this now if you're on a computer or you're on your phone, and you guys can sign up afterwards. It's a weekly newsletter that gives you guys basically a very quick highlight of what's going on per platform and what you guys should be aware of, right? So don't forget to sign up for that. It's super valuable, I think. And moving on to secret number 3. And we call this the secret, the lo-fi content secret, which if you guys are spending any amount of time on social media and seeing what's going on, even in normal media like television, you see that lo-fi content performs really well. And what do we mean by lo-fi content? Essentially, what we mean is content that's actually shot typically with this thing, right? Like the phone footage, things that even like shaky cam, it looks like it was shot on a potato, as they say, like if only the guy had a good camera. But to be honest, like that's what's performing really well. And there's a reason why that is performing really well. It's because it doesn't feel like advertising. So when we're scrolling our social feed, we're looking at our friends' stuff, maybe looking at some things from some brands that we follow, and we can smell advertising, right? When we scroll past a really bad ad with some really bad stock, photo or stock footage, or sort of feels like it's okay, they're trying to sell me this product or sell me this thing, we start scrolling faster, right? We don't like advertising usually. In some certain stances, times, or places, we love advertising. Most times we hate advertising. So when we're looking at content online, if it looks like it fits native to the platform, if it looks like it's maybe from a friend or some viral video that I need to see, it'll actually perform much, much better. So don't be afraid to do some content on these things. Don't be afraid to use images or use visuals that aren't perfect, right? It's about that authenticity. It's about, getting to, speak on an eye level with your customers or with the people that you're trying to reach. And if you're only putting out super shiny, super polished stuff, it probably won't do as well. Now, there's still a place and time for that. But I would say like one of the ways you can start getting more content out is by lowering the production value and seeing and getting more performance from that, and actually then going to your bosses or going to, your client and saying, hey, look, this is actually performing better. It takes us less time to produce, so we can produce more. And it's doing great, right? And it's allowing us to get that data that we need to make informed decisions. So that's the secret number 3. Lo-fi content performs best. And we can see this in many avenues. I mean, here's just a small example from Giphy.com. And I don't know how many of you have been watching what's going on Giphy.com, but I mean, it's really an amazing platform that's just blowing up. We are making GIFs for clients all the time, and we're amazed at the reach that we're able to get with the brands that we're working with. For example, we have a client that we're doing some Giphy for, and within the first 6 months, we were able to bring in 60 million organic views for their brand on the platform, just producing really lo-fi, cool content that's aligned with their brand. And it's used for internal use. It's used for email newsletters. It's used for Twitter, and it's used for Instagram stories and also Facebook comments. So it's really a great platform, and you can see this. I mean, but across all platforms, you see this lo-fi content thing, right? You see Facebook, lo-fi content performs the best. Even Instagram, right? Like throwing a picture up of you and a colleague doing a selfie is probably going to perform better than that really nice glossy photo of your factory or whatever it is, right? So keep that in mind as you produce content. Secret number 4, keep people on the platforms to drive more reach and engagement. So one of the things that I find is super interesting is that, when we start working with brands, usually we find that they are doing a lot of linking out, right? Linking out to their blog, linking out to their newsletter, linking out to their lead form that they want to get a sign up on, linking out to their webinar that they want a sign up on. And the thing is that platforms don't like that, right? LinkedIn doesn't like that. Facebook doesn't like that. They want to keep you on the platform. And I would love to know why you guys think this is in the chat. Why do you think Facebook wants to keep you on the platform? If anybody wants to write anything there. Oh, I see some of you guys in the chat here. I'm sorry, I was on the wrong thing. So let me know in the chat why does Facebook want to keep you on the platform? Any thoughts on that? I'm sure you guys are all going to nail this. This is an easy one, but I'm waiting for the chat. No, nobody wants to take the hit here. Maybe the chat's just slow. Okay, I'm going to give it to you guys. So Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Okay, so now we're getting advertising revenue. I love this. So Veronica, eat it. You guys are killing it. Artists, yes, more time spent on the platform, more income. Absolutely. So you guys are crushing it here. So the idea that, but then, if we're not feeding into that, right? If we're not making this guy happy here, right? If we're not, this is him. He's very happy. He's a happy camper, this guy. But basically they want to get revenue. So if you're anti that, if you're like driving people elsewhere, then they're not going to help you get your content out to more people, to get more eyeballs on it, to actually drive that relationship building that you need to do with customers, potential customers on the platform, or stakeholders, or whoever they are. So you really have to play into them, right? They really have to think, okay, what does Mark Zuckerberg want? Well, he wants me to keep people on a platform as long as possible. So you need to say that you need to look at your content and say, how do we do this? If that's long form stuff for YouTube or long form stuff for Facebook, that seems to work really well, or stuff that gets engagement, stuff that increases the chance that other people will see it. That's what they want. So try not to do too many links outwards, and look at your content and say, okay, maybe this could be a link out, maybe this could be a link out, but this shouldn't be. And I'll come a little bit more to that in a minute here about what you can do there. But keep people on the platforms, right? To gain knowledge, get insights, get entertained, find comfort. So if you want to reach more people and you want to do better with your content, start looking at it as, okay, we want to just supply everybody here with great content that's going to keep them on the platform. So that's the secret number 4. Secret number 5 is kind of in the same direction, but it's really important. When we start working with clients, we often see that they've got mixed KPIs. And you probably have this in yours as well. We do as well. Like sometimes we forget. But basically, you can see here's an example from salesforce.com, right? So they've got a post here, get ready to get real with weekly career conversations hosted by Beckwith, right? To the first of Boss Talks. And then they have a video here that's about Boss Talks, and then they have a link outwards. So what this does, or what this can do, is it confuses the platform a bit, and it confuses the users a little bit too, because do you want them to watch the video or do you want them to go elsewhere, right? And if you want them to go elsewhere, then maybe putting the link at the very end is maybe not the right choice, or maybe producing a video for this and having the video play and them paying attention to the video is maybe not the right approach either, right? So I don't have a solid answer on whether that's right or wrong. All I've seen is that when platforms hate us linking outwards, and then we also don't have our KPIs, our key performance indicators, linked to what is it that we actually want to do here, then those things go opposite and we don't actually reach our goals, because we get a lot of video views on this, but then we don't get the clicks out because we haven't aligned those two things. So be careful. If you're looking for links outwards, then focus on that KPI. Don't add in extra sort of things that can get in the way of that KPI. I would have suggested that maybe the link should be in the first, sentence up there, like join in for our boss talks. Here's the link. And then below, this is what you're going to learn. And I know it seems maybe anti what you're used to. I totally agree. I mean, I've been taught this when it comes to social media almost, my all adult life. But it's important to look at your KPIs for that particular content and say, okay, what is it we want? Now, if we wanted video views, then that's what we want to say. We want to say, watch this Boss Talks video with Ebony Beckwith to get a sense of what's going to happen in our next thing. So that's also like, and then you can always tease for more stuff later, like interested in the link, let us know in the comments below. And then people can comment like, okay, I want the link. And then you can put it in the link or put it in the comments rather. Or you can say comment or link in the second comment or the first comment rather. So what I'm saying is that just align your KPIs properly to the thing that you want done. Do you want engagement? Ask questions and be thought-provoking. Do you want traffic? Make the offer and value very compelling and the link very visible. Do you want video views? Focus on getting that and not taking people elsewhere. And you can do this across all the platforms. This is LinkedIn, but you can do it across everything. So don't be afraid of trying that out. The other secret that I have for you guys is that no one has a crystal ball. So I would love to be able to stand on this stage. Right now I'm sitting, but as a virtual conference speaker, I feel like I'm standing on a stage. But I would love to stand here and say that I know exactly what's going to work with every single post, every single time. I don't. I've got some good guesses. You've got some good guesses. But the reality is that nobody knows what's going to happen until you press publish, right? So you can spend months, you could spend half a year building a piece of content that you don't know if it's going to perform well or not, right? So you really have to get this in your mindset that maybe we need to look at content a little bit differently. Maybe we need to look at it in a more speedy sort of way. How do we produce? How do we guess and test? How do we build things, do micro content, lower our production values, really start to produce different things versus spending months and months and months building campaigns, building assets that we don't actually know will perform that well. So just keep that in mind. Like, nobody's got a crystal ball. The only way to know if anything is ever going to work is to press publish. So don't be afraid to press publish. But off the back of that, there is some ways that we can test content before you launch to maybe not ensure performance, but definitely give you some thoughts into if it is going to perform or not. And this comes back to Mark Zuckerberg, but I'll get back to that in a minute. But there's some other things that you can do beforehand. So one of the things that I see brands sort of missing out on is the opportunity to just ask their followers, ask their fans. There's so many great options now on social media when it comes to polling audiences, asking questions, getting a dialogue going with your fans and followers. And sadly, many brands don't take up those things. They just do not say, okay, we should use that feature. And the reality is that that's another thing that the social platforms want you to do is they want you to try out new tools, right? They spend all this time building this new tool, building polls, building the question and answer sticker thing, building these options of getting more interaction. And those who use them first are usually the ones that are going to reap the most benefit because the platform is going to push you out there more because you're using their latest stuff, right? And it's getting into more onto more feeds and more eyeballs. So using the latest stuff from them is going to help you guys out, and it's going to help you understand what your audience wants. So literally just ask, like, do you want this? Do you want this? Which topics do you want us to cover in the next blog post? Which what is the next webinar content that we should make? What video are you dying for us to cover? What topic in their next video should we cover? Literally just asking them is going to give you so much data and give you guys a sense of, okay, when we publish this, it's probably going to do pretty well. So I wouldn't be afraid of that. And then when we're talking about polls as well, you can run Instagram ads for polls. So if you're missing a big audience, you guys don't have an audience today, you can also use Instagram poll ads to get your guys' data in to figure out what you should do next. So that could be a really nice and cheap way of polling your audience and finding out what they actually want to do or want to see from you, I should say. The other thing too is test in Facebook. So going back to that Mark Zuckerberg guy, Mark is really built the best sandbox tool that has ever existed, right? So when we talk about finding out what works, I mean, it is a market research monster. It is so good at, testing out different pieces of content, testing out different pieces of creative, testing out different types of messaging, running all of those at the same sort of time and looking, okay, what is our audience actually clicking on? What are they interested in? So I really think like running split test ads towards even other people's content, if you don't have your own content, can help you find out what also is working. So if you haven't built anything yet and you don't want to go out and build something before you know if it's going to work, just run an ad towards someone else's content. I know it sounds like crazy, like you're giving them traffic, but for as little as $20, doing a split test with two pieces of different content, you can understand very quickly what kind of things your audience actually wants. So it's a smart move, right? And if you don't want to spend money on ads, you can also just share the content organically, right? To find out what's working. There's a lot of brands that are afraid of sharing other people's content, but we've seen that works extremely well, especially when it comes to different stakeholders in the industry. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily share a direct competitor's piece of content, but I would definitely share one from a supplier. I would definitely share one from a peer, somebody who is in the industry with me. So Veronica, I just read your chat here. Loving your website blog. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that you went over. Don't forget to check out the Cubco blog as well. It's chock full of crazy cool articles. So I'll put it in the chat here, guys. You guys can go check it out. So now moving on to what tools to use to speed up the process. Now, guys, I really want you guys to screenshot the next slide here because there's some great tools here that's going to help you guys speed up your content process and also help you produce different types of content and get it out there. So we talked a little bit about testing out what content to make by using Facebook ads, but there's some other great tools out here that's going to help you guys. One of those is BuzzSumo. I don't know if you guys know BuzzSumo. Probably many of you do if you're big into digital marketing. But BuzzSumo, you can basically start loading in different search terms, different topics, and finding out, okay, what is the specific article that is getting the most traction out there in social media, so that I can maybe, not copy it, but I can kind of learn from it and see what other pieces of content I could make that's in the same zone. AnswerThePublic.com is another great tool to put in a search term and find out all the different search terms that people might be searching with or searching for in relation to that. So say I'm selling Nike shoes. I can put in the search term Nike shoes, and then I'm going to get all the different search terms that people are using out there on the web when it comes to that. So it might be like how to clean my Nike shoes, where to buy the best Nike shoes, how do I recycle my Nike shoes. Those questions will come up, and then you can use it as a brainstorm tool to find out what kind of content people are actually looking for. Because oftentimes we're sitting there going, I don't know what the audience wants. Let's just write something and hopefully people will love it. That sometimes works. I love it when that works, but sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes you have to go back to the drawing board and figure it out, right? And this is one of those tools that can help you figure it out. Quora is also a great one. There's a lot of people asking questions about specific things. How do I do this? How do I do that? What about this? I don't know about that. And you can kind of just do a little bit of social listening without really doing any hardcore social listening, just popping into those different questions that people are asking and find out if anybody answered it properly. And if not, then maybe it's your opportunity to tackle it. But I mean, if they have answered it properly, doesn't mean that, writing a blog post couldn't be a good standing point there. And SEMrush also does the same thing as BuzzSumo, and a little bit of the same of what Answer the Public does in terms of giving you that search data, giving you some topics that you can cover. Some services and tools to help you make content, expresswriters.com. If you guys are looking for a writer for your writing, like long form blogs, we've used them in the past. We use them every once in a while. They're great at producing content in different industries and different focus areas and different topics. And you can really write, the longest blog post you can ever imagine. Like if you wanted, 5,000 words on, the World War II, or whatever you want, they'll find an expert and they'll write that blog post for you. So don't be a stranger to expresswriters.com. SEMrush.com, again, /marketplace is another great one to find writers. A little bit cheaper. Well, I'd say a lot cheaper than expresswriters.com, but my experience has been that the quality is not as good. It's not as well researched and well thought out. Still great, but ExpressWriters takes the cake when it comes to that. Then there's designpickle.com. All you can eat design services are all over the place these days. Design Pickle's not the only one, but it's one I recommend. And then also agencies like us, right? There's a ton of agencies that create content daily for brands. Pick a great one and they'll help you guys do good stuff. And then tools to make you even more content, right? So we all want more content. How do we squeeze everything that we can out of it? Headliner.app is a great one for taking podcasts or videos and turning that into micro content. It's got a built-in editor. I know there was a session earlier with a person that's also making a tool that makes video editing possible online. There are others, for example, I have marked down here Kamua. Kamua basically is a tool to take your videos and turn them into more vertical based, right? So portrait based. It'll uses an AI tool to find where the person might be in the shot, or where the movement is going. So it uses AI to follow people, to track them, or track the action in the video. So it'll help you guys produce more vertical videos. Now, Quick.io is a caption tool that also automatically captions stuff. It also has a searchable database. So if you do create a bunch of videos, caption them, and you want to go back later and start searching, hey, which of our videos has me talking about or has content about X, then you can actually do a search and it'll give you that list of videos that have that content in it. So that's really a special feature. Canva.com, you guys probably all know Canva.com, but when it comes to producing graphics quickly, it's very good. You can produce them at scale when it comes to different formats. Writesonic.com, you probably haven't heard of, but the trend lately has been AI tools that can actually write for you. This is one that we personally really like at the agency. So you can put in a topic, say, how to scale social media content, and it'll give you guys it could give you guys a full blog post. It's not well written, it's AI, but it'll give you some content to work with. It'll give you some ideas. It'll spit out full, Facebook ads, like, hey, I want 10 Facebook ads. It'll like take your content and turn it into the written form. Like, it's all about writing. So it's a writing AI. Very cool tool. Go check it out. It can help you guys scale up your content. We use it a lot for just writing captions for social media. If I want to see 20 different captions for a social media post, I can just put in my one caption and it'll give me a bunch to choose from, right? So I can choose the best one, and it'll allow me to choose what kind of energy do I want in that. Do I want it really sad? Do I want it inspirational? Do I want it more like professional? And it'll change the tonality of the content. So very cool tool. I recommend checking it out. And then Cut Story app is another great one that's going to help you if you have apps or you have footage on your phone and you want to cut it up into special durations. For example, Instagram Reels can only do 30 seconds, or Instagram Stories can only do 1 minute total. Then you guys can Yeah. Then you guys can put it into Cut Story, and it'll automatically cut pieces up into like increments, right? So if you have a 1-minute video, you want to cut it into 15-second intervals, it'll actually do that automatically for you. So someone just saying, please share the AI site. It's rightsonic.com. Just putting it in the chat there for you guys. Don't go anywhere. Don't leave. Please don't leave to go check out an AI tool. Stay here. I've got a bonus tip coming up. So that's some of the tools that you guys can use. I hope those really help you produce more content and get you guys going, doing that stuff there. So, and then I've got a 3-step formula for you guys that is going to help you 10x your content in less than 10 days. And this is a sort of ninja move that I think is really, really interesting to tackle, especially as personal branding has really risen a lot, right? And it's more and more acceptable to have employees and employers having great personal brands. So you can really tap into that trend and get more content out. And basically, step one, analyze your current content, your blogs, your videos, your ebooks, your landing pages, your old social posts, your PowerPoints, like what has worked and what has not, and make a list, right? So first, do an audit of your content. What do we got, right? And then step 2 is re-engineer or redesign the content to come from a person or persons on your team versus the brand, right? So if you put out if you did a blog post that was about your industry, but it wasn't from a person, it was just a regular blog post, or you had a really entertaining video about what your new product is or whatever it is, you can re-engineer this to come from people on your team. And they can then publish this out as their own content. Now, granted, it could still have a little bit of your branding in it, could still have, your brand name on it, but it's giving your people those assets to lift up their own personal brand and to have a voice towards your industry, your products, your services, whatever it is you do. So it's a really interesting way to go from, okay, we got all this content that we've already put out as a brand. Well, why don't we just change the tone of voice and have it come out as a person? And this is going to dramatically increase your content production and give you guys much, much more options to play with. And on top of that, when they do release it or redistribute those pieces of content on their social profiles, you can also release them on your own profiles, right? So you can say, hey, at, John Smith, recently gave us a look at X, Y, and Z in his post. Here's what he shared, right? So it's also increasing your ability to share it. And you might think, well, but we shared this months ago on our own. Trust me, people do not remember. And if you're remixing it and respinning it towards the personal brand, people, they're not gonna notice. And it's not going to be a bad thing if they do notice, because it is more personal and it's kind of coming from a specific person. So don't be afraid of this tactic. It's a very cool tactic to help your people brand themselves, to get more content out there, to 10x it basically overnight. And the other thing that we see is that personal brands or people always outperform businesses on social media. Always. I mean, you have influencers that have way more followers than any brand does. And the reason is because we like people, we like humans. We don't really have a sort of, well, maybe some of us have a love for particular brands, but we would much rather follow a person. So you're using that. And the thing is that LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all of these platforms, Twitter, they're always going to support a person more than they're going to support a brand. I mean, you can just see this on LinkedIn specifically. If you yourself post versus a brand posting, usually, you're going to kick their ass in terms of reach and in terms of engagement, because you're a person, right? And people want to engage with a person. And Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of these platforms are going to give that person more reach and more engagement than a brand will. So it's also going back to tip number 4 or whatever it was, giving the platform what they want by actually having a personal brands release that content. So guys, that was the large amount of this presentation, like the secrets and also the 10x secrets or tips. Now we're going to move on to the Q&A. I can see there's a lot of questions, great questions in there as well. Don't leave. There's some more stuff. There's a bonus tip coming up, so don't forget that. But I'm just going to move to Q&A now. And if you have any questions, please get them in so that we can take them. And I'll just take them sort of one by one. I hope that's okay. If I don't get to your questions, I'm really sorry. I've only got, maybe 10 minutes here that we can cover these things. But I think it's Patricia. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, but what do you suggest for social media and content specialist who is on his own? No video maker, no content team, only a small team of graphic designers. Do you have any tips? Yeah, I think that you can outsource a lot. I think there's also a lot of great AI tools out there for both video design and also video creation. Canva also has video creation now. There's some new AI tools out. I just saw one the other day. What the hell was it called? It was an AI tool. If I find it in the next, I'll find it very quickly as I keep talking here. But it's an AI tool that you put in your script, and then it gives you a template and it puts your video together for you, and then you just have to select from a library of clips, right? So that could help you, but don't be afraid of using this thing. Like I said before, you don't necessarily need a video maker on the team for somebody to hit record and basically, give the content in a video format this way. So if you don't have a video editor on the team, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that's an advantage, because then you're not looking at going, okay, we need to edit this super nice and sexy. I would actually just start shooting with this thing, start trying it out and seeing how that performs. Otherwise, you can also there's a lot of all-you-can-eat video teams as well out there where you can basically get, 30 videos a month, one a day, basically, for a fairly okay price. Michael asks, would you rather have different versions of ongoing content on Facebook and Instagram, or tweak it a bit, and why? Would you rather have different version of ongoing content on Facebook or tweak it a bit, and why? I'm guessing he's probably asking here, Michael, maybe you can fill me in a little bit more in the Q&A here, but I think you're asking, I would rather have different versions a little bit per platform, right? It has to fit with the platform. But I would say that oftentimes you'll do just fine with the same content, obviously in the right, sizing per platform or per sort of area. And try to do that first, right? We got to walk before we run, right? Because I believe that we're just missing that opportunity to get it out there again, or do it in, another platform. So I would say try that first. And if it doesn't, if it's still not performing that great, or you're not super happy, then start tweaking it. But I really believe you got to start just putting the same thing out, but just different platforms, and then seeing how that works, and then go from there. All right. Skip. Hey, what's up, Skip? Good to see you here. Hey, Cubby, great presentation. Your content journey starts with a blog. Could you start with any longer formcast? Absolutely. He's asking, can we start with a podcast or start with a webinar? 100%. Like, you can also start with a long ass YouTube video. You don't have to start with the blog. We found it's easier to brainstorm our ideas or get our ideas out there in the written form first, because it's more, I would say the story is kind of built in already, or at least the flow, or at least some sections, right? So it's a good catalyst, whereas podcasts maybe tend to be a little bit more loose. Webinars also have a good flow because you have kind of a story you're trying to tell throughout the whole presentation. So I would say a webinar is a much easier way. We actually help brands with their webinar content, turning that into micro content for social. It's become a trend lately. So we have a lot of companies coming and saying, hey, we've got these fairly long webinars. How do we make them into short and sweet little things? And I think that's a perfect way. So I absolutely agree with you there, Skip. Definitely take your podcast to webinar. And on the podcast front, use that headliner.app to produce small things that are really great. Michael again, good to see you again. He says, what about using logo in posts on both platforms for coding our brand into the minds of our customers? You know, I don't have a full sort of answer on this, because I've seen social posts try with logo and without logo, right? To do a kind of a split test to see what performs better. Usually the non-logo, and that goes back to what I was saying about people are afraid of advertising. So if you're putting your logo on things, people go, oh, I don't know if I want to consume this content. So I'd be a little bit wary of that. We do it. I definitely think that lots of our posts have our logo on it and our branding, but I would say try to get your feeling in another way, in the colors, or in, you know, the music is a great, you know, way, even though some social platforms don't have music from the get-go. But I would say, you know, in the music or the tone of voice, or try to look at other ways of getting your brand, you know, burned into the minds of the consumer through other ways than just logo, right? So look at color, tone of voice, graphic design that can help you get there. So Cornelia asks, could you recommend a good blog, etc., on how to create good, effective newsletter? Whew, that's a good question. You know, I don't have one, other than I sign up for a lot of newsletters and use those as inspiration, right? And kind of across the board in different areas, not just in social media, but I tend to go and look at different things, and I ask a lot of people, like, what newsletters are you listening to? It's the same with podcasts. I ask people a lot, like, what are you listening to? What are you watching? So I don't have one right off the top of my head. I mean, I think HubSpot usually has great resources. If you know HubSpot, MailChimp.com might have some good resources on how to make a great newsletter. I think that newsletters are tough. I think also, in my mind, you know, when we look at the future of newsletters, it might be interesting to start to look at Messenger, and also maybe even LinkedIn newsletters to see how that's going. The only caveat I would add to that, though, is like, when you own the emails, you never own emails, you don't own an audience, but when you have the emails, it's a little bit more yours. You know, you kind of own it a bit, versus when it's a platform that owns your audience. It's not a very good thing. So sorry, I can't be a little bit more help there. Linking out. So Michael again. Michael, man, you're all over the comment section or the question section. I love it. Michael asks, linking outwards, isn't the best practice to have a snippet video and link outwards in the comment section? We've seen that working, yes. So the first comment having the link out, but it's still, you know, platforms are smart. They're not stupid. So they've caught on to this early, and they started, you know, watching out for this as well. So I would say, you know, use this with a caution, that it might not be the best practice. I think that the best practice right now I see is, you know, paying for your link outwards. So organic content, we focus on keeping people on the platform. Paid content, we're focused on getting traffic, right? So that's sort of how we do it nowadays. Obviously, we can also run ads just to get engagement or just to get video views. We also do a ton of advertising like that. But I would say more and more we are moving our organic content away from linking outwards and just focusing on paid for that. Juliana asks, what is the ideal timeline for resharing content, or should it be rewritten, reformatted for each new share? I would say, you know, if you're gaining new followers and you're also getting an audience, I would say every, you know, 6 to 8 weeks is okay, as long as it's not gone outdated. So I would say every 6 to 8 weeks is a good sort of place and see. And I would say as you get more and more out, you'll discover, okay, what worked well and what didn't. Did it work better on the second run, or did it work better on the first run? And that'll give you an indication of whether or not you should take it out of rotation. Because if it's giving you diminishing returns, if it's slowly going down, then you could say, all right, our audience is exhausted with this content, we don't need to put it out anymore. But if it's going the other way, then you're like, okay, there's something interesting going on. People really love this content, and it's just getting, you know, more and more traction. So look at your numbers, and that'll tell you when it should be taken out of rotation. But I would say every 6 to 8 weeks seems to work really well. What's your take? And the last question here from Artis, not last, we got one more here. What's your take on keeping the personalized brand message classy? So I love this question. It seems like it's a Ron Burgundy kind of question. Keep it classy there, digital marketing Europe. So what's your take on keeping this personalized brand message classy? It depends on the personal brand. Like, I really think, like, the personal brand thing is an interesting one because you can really play into their tone of voice and their sort of attitude, right? So you wouldn't put out a piece of personal branded content for somebody that's like, it's super rebellious and edgy when they're, maybe a really buttoned up accountant, right? It probably wouldn't work if it's not their personal brand. So you have to, if that person is classy, then definitely make it classy. But if they're not classy, then I would say might want to stay away from that. By classy, if you mean more professional looking, that's a good question as well. I think that we've seen that more toned down, lo-fi, handwritten stuff performs extremely well on social as well. Michael says, thanks for the great presentation. Anders asks, could you please reconfirm what I think I just heard? I agree. A LinkedIn post on LinkedIn does not work any worse than a LinkedIn post with a link in the first comment. He said, could you please confirm what I think I just heard? A LinkedIn post on LinkedIn does not work any worse than a LinkedIn post with a link in. That might be the case. Definitely. Like, a LinkedIn post with a link in the caption might not perform better. It used to when you put the link in the comment. I haven't seen the latest data on it. I've anecdotally seen that it works better when we put it in the first comment, but you'd have to look at many posts over many different months to see if it's actually the case. But I think there's a lot of great LinkedIn experts that have been at the conference and spoken as well. They might be better to reach out to in regards to this. So just moving forward here, trying to get through it all. We got about 1 more minute for questions. Could you please answer that? Reposting as my question moved up. Which social platforms work best for B2B, in my opinion? So Agatha, to be honest, I like to go where my customers, are. So if my customers are on Twitter, then that's where I'm going to spend time, right? So, and also I'm looking at my competitors. Where are my competitors spending all their time? So if it's a really, struggle because all of our competitors are on Twitter and our customers are on Twitter, I have to do something really special to stand out. But if I can find those, as they say, blue ocean, even though I don't believe in blue ocean, if we can find those social platforms, those areas where our customers are, but our competitors aren't, that's the best place to be. But I've seen B2B work, like we talk about TikTok a lot these days. I've seen B2B work extremely well on TikTok, and you would say, what the hell is going on there? But the reality is they have a professional profile that you can turn on, right? So they are geared towards businesses and B2B selling as well. So I hope that answered your question. I got one more time for one more question. Yes. One thing from artists, which is a very important one, which is how to deal with corporate administration when going for this type of company image. It's very hard. It's an uphill battle. It's pushing a donkey uphill, as they say. It's very hard to get an organization that's conservative, that's not used to this sort of thing, to agree to this. What I would suggest is you walk softly and carry a big stick, as they say. So, basically come with these ideas very humbly and say, I would really like to test this out. I would like to try this. And if it doesn't work, we can delete it. If it does work, then I would like to have a further conversation about how we could maybe loosen this up a bit, because it's cheaper for the organization and it's better overall. So I would try that, just saying, I just want to test it. It's not going to break the company. So I'm coming to the end here, guys. I only have 48 seconds left. So I would like to do a couple things is one, just ask you, connect with me on LinkedIn. Let me know you saw the presentation. Just connect and message me and say, hey, Chris, saw you at Digital Marketing Europe. Let's connect. And I would love to connect with you out there. So please go do that after the session or on the weekend or whenever. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, Chris Cubby, Kubby. You'll find me everywhere. So don't worry about that. You'll find me. I also want to thank you guys for attending. You've been super great. Thank you to all the speakers who delivered amazing keynotes today and sessions. Thank you so much. I want to thank you to the partners, the One Trust Preference Choice. Sorry, I'll say that again. One Trust Preference Choice. It's a mouthful. Which enables marketers and publishers to drive transparent user experiences, build trust, and comply with hundreds of global data privacy regulations. You guys know that's a big issue as well as I do, right? So they're going to help you with CCPA, TCPA, CASL, and of course the big one, GDPR. So don't forget to go check out One Trust Preference Choice. And please rate all the sessions that you saw today using the activity stream in the menu in the Pine platform, as well on social media, right? Like, please cover this and share this and let us know what you think. So thank you guys so much for attending. So a big thanks, Tom Hanks from me. And one last bonus tip, I should say. Treat your content like poker, right? We get poker hands, right? This is a good one. Okay, I'm going to keep this. I'm going to bet on this one. This is a shitty hand. Going to throw it away. I'm going to fold, right? So if you treat your content like poker, you have to take the hand, see what it is. If it's great, throw money behind it, right? If it's bad, throw it away. Save it for another day. Put it into the publishing another time. So that's my bonus tip. Treat your content like a poker game. That's it from me. Thank you guys so much for your time, for your energy, for all your questions, for everybody in the chat. I really, really appreciate all the love out there. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys around. Thank you. Bye.